Good evening, everybody, from Fratton Park. Quite looking forward to being here, to be honest. The first time that me and Connor have ever made this journey to this stadium. But that sort of, I suppose, excitement and hope we had before this game has maybe took a little bit of a knock due to a certain suspension, which we're going to get straight into because, you know, it's clearly going to be the topical talking point around this game, regardless of the result tonight. I mean, Connor, let's get into it. Kenny McLean, another 4-game suspension. Your reaction?
Right. Well, let's start with what's happened and the process of it. So, Norwich City were alerted yesterday afternoon, post press conference, that there had been a charge brought against Kenny McLean for an incident that happened off the ball in Saturday's defeat to QPR in the first half. I think we both saw it at the time. Felt foul, maybe yellow card. That was then obviously made aware to Norwich that was the case. Norwich then worked very hard until the early hours of this morning, from what we gather, compiling an appeal consisting essentially of witness statements, players around Kenny himself. That was then sent, as we said, to the FA and the independent committee, which is a panel that's made up of ex-referees, essentially. And because this wasn't in the referee's report, because it wasn't highlighted by the referee subsequently in any of his analysis of the game, this has now been able to have been looked at by this commission, who have decided, all of them, a unanimous decision that it's a red card. The appeal process took place, or the appeal hearing took place this afternoon at around 2:30 and was thrown out within 15 minutes, which, given the length of the document that Norwich submitted, I'm not sure is enough time to really come to a conclusion about that. But anyway, that's the process, that's the situation. And the final verdict is that Kenny McLean is suspended for 4 games, 3 for the original offence, and the 4th because it's his second red card of the season. What a farce! I mean, what a farce! Anyone that's seen it back, and you can go and watch it on social media, the initial incident, and I can actually see Kenny on the pitch as we stand here with hood up, and I can imagine he's devastated. But it's for me not a red card. It's for me not a red card worthy of 3 games. And you look at the one in the first half where Jimmy Dunn has caught Borja Sainz and actually drawn blood from his nose, and there was a clear swing of the arm in that. I think that's a lot worse than the one that Kenny McLean has been done for. And actually, if we're going across the game, I mean, you mentioned yesterday there was one in the Spurs game, Kulusevski on Lavia. The referee has seen it. You go and watch the clip back. He's seen it. He's got a good view of it. He's decided it's not worthy of anything other than a free kick. To then go against that, look, either we have VAR in the Championship or we don't. Either we're going through and combing through incidents or we're not. So the fact that somebody in a dark room in the FA Towers somewhere has decided to trope through a 90-minute game and pick that out and feel that that's worthy of putting in front of 3 or 4 ex-referees who have all decided on the angles that we've seen, which aren't great quality, let's be honest, they're not a great position, to decide that is a red card, I think is remarkable. And obviously it's going to hurt Norwich City very badly. Look, I was critical of Kenny for the Borough one. I thought it was reckless. I thought it was high. I thought it was a red card. I didn't think he could have any complaints about it. This one, I think he can feel very hard done by, because I don't think it's a red card. And let's see what we get now in terms of consistency. Because if we're giving retrospective bans for that all season long, then we're going to have 3 or 4 of those per weekend. So I look forward to seeing those. Yeah, I mean, as someone pointed out to us, I mean, there's been a few kind of instances where they've been reviewed post-game. I think Junior Firpo with a headbutt against someone, and Osmajic obviously with the bite. But I mean, they're completely different circumstances, because ultimately Kenny is trying to stop the run of the QPR man. There's no real intent there whatsoever. So what's kind of brought that on is ridiculous. Again, it's what are we doing here? Are we having VAR in this league or not? Because if we are, then we need to have it on a consistent basis, and looking at incidents like the one in the first half where Jimmy Dunn has clearly swung his arm into Sainz's face and given him a nosebleed, by the way. We didn't have that this incident. We've had a young lad who's on the floor and rolled around and made a bit of a meal of it. Nobody, I think, from the QPR side would suggest that is a red card at all. So, yeah, sorry, you've got the team news. Yeah, we'll bring you the team news and maybe who's going to replace Kenny in that midfield. This evening it goes as follows: Angus Gunn in goal, Jack Stacey at right back, Shane Duffy and Jose Cordoba are the central pair. Doyle is at left back. Jakob Sorensen comes into the midfield to partner Mondes and Marcelino Nunez. A first start for Ashley Barnes this season. I'd imagine that will mean that Sears will move out to the right, Signs out to the left. The bench is as follows: George Long, Grant Hanley, Brad Hills, Kellen Fisher, Ben Krasene, Oscar Svartau, Anis Ben Slimani, Onel Hernandez and Amankwa Forson. I mean, there you go, Connor. I mean, obviously the notable ones there are probably Ashley Barnes and obviously Jakob Sorensen coming in to replace Kenny. I mean, I suppose given the situation with the midfield, in fact, he's going to have to make a change there. I mean, what do you sort of make of that? could I just make one final point on the red card? Then I will move on. But it's just come into my mind. You think about the one Marquinhos got sent off for at Huddersfield. Yep. Straight arm, very similar. That was overturned. So yeah, what are we doing? Anyway, that team, yeah, it's interesting. I mean, we were kind of speaking for a lot of the journey on the way up about whether it would be a game for Ashley Barnes, whether it would be a game for his experience. I think given the way that Johannes has been speaking, certainly in his press conference yesterday, and certainly after that QPR debacle, I think we probably all concurred that he'd go down a route of more experience, and that probably leads us to a place where Ashley Barnes starts. So yeah, it's a big call. It's a different tack for him if it is Ashley Barnes playing central. Otherwise, it could be a kind of situation as to how they ended the game, where they had Sorensen, Nunez, and then Barnes maybe just behind Cianats with Marcondes on the right. That's the only other sort of situation that I would throw in. But if that is Barnes leading the line, then yeah, it represents to me a change of tack. And I guess probably in light of obviously the situation where they have the away form run that they do, we all know it, where they are losing games, they probably do. I could see the argument for shoring up with a little bit more experience, and that's what you get in Ashley Barnes. I think the question mark would be, how do you get mobility in and around him? How do you get runners in and around him? How do you get that sort of level of running in behind? So they're going to be the interesting elements. And if that is the case, and you're playing him almost in the role, and it's worth throwing in at this stage, he played as almost a false nine in a Vincent Kompany possession-based team, so that won the championship. So he can do it. But for me, it's more the mechanics of how you shift the team in and around him to make him effective as a link player, which is primarily his job. But he should be someone who hopefully can, during those tough spells, hold the ball up, get his backside in, and get Norwich City up the pitch, which is probably what they needed.
I suppose the interesting one, Marcelino Nunez, we know obviously that he's coming back from this injury that kept him out for an 8-9 game period, and Johannes spoke around kind of managing his minutes and obviously not trying to exert him too much, because they know that the busy run that's coming up and some of these key games around Christmas that might determine where this season goes for Norwich City. I mean, obviously now with one less midfield option again, obviously Liam Gibbs being out as well for quite a period of time, I mean, they might not have had much choice.
Yeah, well, exactly that. And I think as well, it's worth considering the fact that that's going to be a very, very late change. We're talking 2:00 this afternoon when that appeal was thrown out. So this isn't even anything that they've had time in terms of shape work. Obviously, Jakob Sorensen and that midfield, however it's made up, will know the patterns and will know the situation. And how Johannes wants to play. So dropping into that should be okay. But yeah, a little bit surprised on Nunez, because I think we probably both felt that after going Saturday, the way that Johannes has been keen to speak up, how conservative they need to be around his fitness, I'm a little bit surprised to see him starting, if I'm completely honest, because he's obviously a player, and we saw how that went against Stoke when there's a kind of a load situation. So hopefully he can last the 90. But we know, and I think probably in light of the McLean news, Norwich probably had to go that way, because we saw what that midfield looked like without Kenny McLean and Marcelino Nunez a few weeks ago. So look, if he can play 60 minutes, if you can get 60 minutes out of him, and it's a really quality performance, and that's all he can give you, and Norwich City are in a position in this game where they're leading, or the game is still alive with 20 minutes to go, then it perhaps gives you an option to drop Marcondes back in there and open up slightly. So him and I guess Sorensen as well, who hasn't played a lot of football since coming back from that injury. So yeah, it's an interesting one, and it's going to be interesting to see how that midfield shapes up.
Yeah, before we talk about Portsmouth, what about the left-back position tonight as well? Obviously, Callum Doyle shifting out of that left centre-back position to move into left-back. Obviously, we saw, and Torres spoke around it yesterday about Callum Fisher at left-back, and maybe that experiment working, he felt, at West Brom, didn't work against QPR. And, obviously the fact that I suppose Stacey's form's been pretty good over the last few games, it made that debate a little bit interesting. What do you make of that situation? I mean, Jose Cordoba coming back into the side in that defence, right decision?
Yeah, I think so. Look, I think Callum Fisher's been very good for Norwich this season, particularly in that right back role. I probably would have. I think it would have been harsh to drop Stacey out again, particularly after the form that he's exuded. But I think long term, it feels like Callum Fisher is the better option in that role for how Norwich want to play. But yeah, look, it didn't work on Saturday, did it? Norwich lacked progression. I think the way that, and to be fair, I don't think Fisher was helped out, and I mentioned this on the podcast, by the midfield options. I didn't think he had enough passing options when he got the ball, and that forced him to play backwards a lot of the time and invite that QPR press on. So that would have been incredibly infuriating. Norwich lacked progress down that side. They lacked the option to play vertically. They didn't get Sainz in the game enough in open play. So yeah, look, I think it's an obvious one. I may be in the minority. I don't think Callum Doyle's done too bad in that position. I reckon it is a risk and reward though, because you maximise his qualities on the ball, but you don't half leave space in behind. So it's a risk, and Portsmouth are going to get opportunities and they're going to get counter-attacks down that side. But with Cordoba there as a bit of a sweeper option, I feel a bit more secure with that. So you would hope that gives Norwich a little bit more progression with their play, which is something that they lacked on Saturday. They didn't carve through QPR near enough, and with Cordoba and with Doyle on that left side, it should help them to get out a little bit better than they did. So I think that's the right decision. And I've said this numerous times, but I think if you just to throw Ben Crezene's name into the mix, so I don't think he's done badly for Norwich City this season when he's played. I think he's looked okay, but in terms of having two pure athletic options on either flank, I think that doesn't really strike to what Johannes wants to do. He likes to have an inverted one. He likes to have one that can step in and can play a key role in build-up. So for the way that he wants to play, I think that balance is probably right.
Yeah, let's bring that Portsmouth team now. I mean, in goal, Smid, Oglevy, Paul, Pack is playing in the defence. He's actually a midfielder, so there's potentially an option there for Norwich to try and exploit tonight. Potts, Bishop, Moxon, obviously Josh Murphy, formerly of Norwich City. Everyone will be aware of his dangers and his threats. I think he's had a pretty positive start here, particularly kind of maybe more recent weeks. Devlin, Matt Ritchie, of course, is an experienced pro at this level and the division above in terms of the Premier League. And Paddy Lane, Archer, Swanson, Towler, McIntyre, Kamara, not that one, Silvera, Blair, Sadie and Sorensen, not that one, on their bench. A few key players missing for them as well. I'm speaking to a Portsmouth sort of media type here, and he was saying about Lang being missing for them, who's maybe been one of the key players in that sort of attacking three, I suppose, behind the striker, which is Bishop, who's returned, obviously, thankfully for Portsmouth, hopefully not for in for the goals tonight. But I suppose what do you make of them and their threats, and how did Norwich deal with that tonight?
Yeah, well, I think it's going to be a very similar game to what Norwich experienced on Saturday, and that's probably what makes this so interesting. Because we've had a lot of fallout from that game on Saturday about maybe what needs to change, what has to change. So and that's the beauty of this league sometimes, and it's the curse of this league sometimes, that you get an opportunity to try and prove yourself immediately. But nobody should take this for granted. 7 points from a possible 9 from their last 3 games. They've really improved, particularly here at home. They've got back-to-back home wins, albeit with a game that was called off against Millwall for light issues, but they seem to be all on here tonight, which is good. Obviously, we know the threat that Josh Murphy poses. We know all of that. So, this is going to be blood and thunder championship game against a team that is scrapping at the wrong end of the table, that needs points, that has got a brilliant home support. And it makes it a really interesting occasion. Let's see how Norwich City can handle it and what they changed. And maybe bringing in Ashley Barnes to their forward line and to their side. And obviously now Jakob Sorensen is enforced to come in as well. I think that adds a different dynamic to it as well. So, it's going to be very similar to Saturday. So let's see how Norwich City can stand up to it.
Not to bring any more doom and gloom to this recording, and on top of that, Kenny News, Connor, but there's a few statistics which are a bit damning, I suppose, heading into this game.
Yes, so Norwich, and this is with the caveat that they've not played each other since in the league, at least until 2011. But Norwich looking for their first successive league wins at Fratton Park since October 1970, I think. So that's 50 years. And Norwich, generally, their midweek form on the road isn't great. I think it's 12 games on the road without a win on Tuesday, Wednesday or Thursday. So we're going back to, if you remember, Onel Hernandez's late winner at Birmingham. In August 2022, I think, at the start of that season when Dean Smith was in charge. That was the last game that they won on the road under the lights in the Championship. So, those stats aren't great, but those stats are there to be broken, aren't they? And you just hope that all that adversity that Norwich City have faced today, all that pent-up frustration and anger is utilised in the right way, obviously coupled with what we saw at the weekend. Need to see a response here tonight.
Yeah, I sort of dip into a few of the comments before I maybe get your score prediction. Let's go to the top and see what we've got here. I think a lot of people are reacting to that. Kenny News, of course, atrocious decision. We've obviously spoken around Kenny. No, Paddy doesn't have a 4-game suspension. He is going to be here this evening. He is on his way. He's followed us up. His son had a Christmas nativity this afternoon, so he's brought himself up. So I imagine he was sort of around the M25 when he heard that Kenny News. So he probably had it worse than us when we were sat in a hotel and a little bit confused as to what had happened. Display calibration saying the referee was right on the spot and gave nothing, which I think it is absolutely bang on. Yeah, awful decision. A lot of people absolutely fuming, of course, with that situation that has unfolded. The ban is shocking. English officials an embarrassment. As you know, I watch a lot of Dutch football. It's so much better for them. And
let me jump in there. I think, and I know we tend to say this every season, but and look, I think there's a wider debate to be had here, right, about the lack of people who are going into refereeing, and that's clearly a challenge to recruit them. But the general standard this year of Championship refereeing has been shocking. Let's call it what it is. It's been really bad. And you look at some of the appointments as well. Norwich had a referee a few weeks ago. I can't remember the exact game, but This was a guy who'd never refereed above League One, or I think he refereed 2 League One games. Suddenly was propelled in the Championship. Last year he was doing National League games. I mean, and again, this is where you feel sorry for them, because there are guys that have been promoted and pushed into this league that aren't ready for it. But because of the shortage of referees that we have in this country, because of the education and lack of education that we have, they're being thrust into situations they shouldn't be in. I mean, the referee on Saturday, generally, you look at the situations that he did miss. He didn't miss the Kenny McLean one. He missed the handball, the clear handball. He missed the foul on Anti-Cianats in the first half. The linesman missed the one that was onside. So they're the ones that I think should be, should cause more worry within the FA. It should be about the standard of referees they're producing, not about nitpicking games and picking out incidents in a room via a computer that they deem to be a red card. It's frankly an absolute farce.
Yeah, Spanish Canary points out if we're going to have VR in the Championship, then in the QPR game, what about those decisions? Of course, as you just mentioned there, 2 goals penalty, of course the handball, which was, and even the one where Cianats gets through and the man comes and completely swipes the man.
That's a red card. That is a red card. I've seen it back. Cianats is through on goal. There's no attempt to play the ball. That is a red card. I mean, it's not a hard decision, that, and it's the sort of decision that week in, week out at this level gets let go, and it's farcical. I'm not very happy about it, Adam. I don't know if you can tell.
No, I think we can probably tell from a few of the comments, can tell that maybe that pent-up frustration is being let out on this live. No, Jeff, and we haven't laid eyes on those.
We have had sausage rolls.
We have, and a nice little pie, not overly substantial, but enough to tick us over. Let's get into score predictions, I suppose, because we've been live now for 16 minutes. A few people commenting here. Ian Crow feeling fairly positive there. A 3-2 Norwich victory. The boys will be fired up. Addy Clark agreeing with him. A 3-2 Norwich win. Murphy definitely to score. Jeff Moon going, enjoy the game, lads. 2-1 Norwich City win. I don't know if we've got any more flooding through here. I think we've got a few people still outraged with that decision, and rightfully so. Connor, I suppose with all that, how do you see this game unfolding? As you've mapped out there, and as we've spoken about, and as everyone there is pointing out, Norwich have almost got a point to prove tonight, just to kind of, given all that pent-up frustration that they're going to have, all the lads will, I'd imagine, be affected by this Kenny decision. We spoke around Kenny, now it's going to affect him as well. How do they bounce back tonight? Are they going to get a win?
Oh, it's a really tough one to call, isn't it? It's what Norwich City turns up for me. You'd like to think that this is a team that can use everything that happened from Saturday, from today, that sense of injustice that they feel, to go out there and put that into a really good performance, because they need to. They were off it on Saturday to a man. I think it was very difficult to pick out even one player. So we need to see a response, and we need to see a change in the narrative, and we need to see that they're able to deal with this kind of situation in the Championship in the way that Johannes Torp wants. So that's the desire, but can we see that? Because they've still got an opponent who's going to make life difficult, who are confident, who are in form, in spite of having key players out. I think we probably all feel, and certainly in those comments, feel like there's going to be goals. I think this is a really tough one to call. I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw. You, Adam?
Yeah, I think before I knew the Kenny news, I kind of felt Norwich would bounce back and had a bit of a hunch that they would get a win tonight. But I must confess that I've had a little bit of dent in confidence maybe off the back of that news, particularly given the statistics around Kenny, and Norwich struggles to win without him. You know, he's such a key cog in this midfield, and particularly this kind of place, you know, it's going to be difficult under the lights. Home crowd are going to be on top in terms of, you know, look at the sort of proximity of the fans to the pitch. It's really tight. So it's going to be difficult, but you know what? Let's breed a little bit more positivity in this. Let's go for a 2-1 Norwich win, which, you know, I'm intrigued still to see how Torp plays it post-match, because I'd imagine he's going to feel pretty hard done by and frustrated off the back of this decision that's been, you know, almost put against Norwich again. Because we spoke around it even after the Middlesbrough game. You know, I mean, it felt harsh, really. I mean, it was a red card.
It wasn't a free-game one, though, was it? Yeah, that's the issue.
And obviously you get the extra one on top, and now this one again, you know, it's just, it feels like everything's going wrong at the moment.
A general point as well about a committee. How can you have a committee of ex-referees? Surely you need a committee of current referees. Yep. If they are unbiased, and those are the guys that know the rules as they stand here right now, that, you know, live and breathe what that referee has made, not did 5, 10, 15 years ago, and can sit in a room drinking tea on a nice FA committee making decisions like this that, you know, affect players and affect clubs unfairly. It's ridiculous, that this situation. And I look forward to seeing the 3-4 game bans that are going to follow for all the other players that dare to sort of raise their elbows above sort of shoulder height, which apparently you can't do now. So there we go.
Yeah, I mean, as Jace points out, even the one on signs, which I think we spoke around as well early on. And I mean, I know you've seen it back. I mean, that's a red card more than the Kenny one.
Yeah, it is. And he's hurt him as well. He's drawn blood. I mean, we're talking about a lad who rolled around for 5 minutes and was ultimately fired because he got a slight knock on the chin. It's a farce. But they haven't looked at that one, I presume, because that was given in real time. Did he get anything? No, I don't think it was given in real time, was it? So what's the difference with that one? I mean, it's an absolute joke. Either we're, as I said, either we're having VAR in the Championship and we're going through these incidents and we're coming back through them, or we're not. And we as a game and as a league need to decide what we're doing, because we can't be in a situation where stuff like that is being looked at retrospectively. I can understand it when it's the lad at Preston and he's bit another player and the referee's missed it, or I need to see the Firpo headbutt back. But those type of things I can understand why you would look at, but not something that the referee has a clear view on, has made a decision on at the time, and has deemed it not to be a card. So it's a farce. And like I said, I was critical of McLean after the Borough one. I thought he was reckless. He let the team down. And this one, I'm sure he's going to feel absolutely devastated by, and rightly so. But he's been really unlucky, because I don't think that's a high enough bar to constitute a red card. And I look forward to the FA sort of publishing their written reasons as to why they think it is. Because unless they've got some evidence that we haven't seen, I just do not see in what world that is worthy of a retrospective ban.
Yeah, well, let's try and enjoy tonight's game and maybe try and put that frustration aside for 90 minutes. But I think we're all feeling the same way. Everyone, in the comments, we can see the frustration. And, I've seen a few people on socials maybe trying to blame Kenny or be angry towards Kenny. But for me, there's no intent there. He's not tried to get himself a ban or so. I think that's a little bit harsh on his side as well. So we'll see what we get. Of course, we've got all the usual coverage. You will be on the live blog this evening. So if you're a Pink and Plus subscriber,
10 minutes to breathe down there. Right?
Yeah, if you're a Pink Plus subscriber, obviously you can come across and follow all the match coverage with Connor. We've got a little offer that's still running at the moment as well, which you can go and check out. I think it's £15 for 15 months of coverage, which is a great opportunity. And there's a little hospitality ticket giveaway for the Swansea home game with that. So anyone who's a current subscriber, or of course anybody who joins, will be entered into that automatically. So there's a bit of an incentive there. Of course, we'll be speaking to Torok post-match, intrigued to see how he sort of breaks down this situation, how he feels, in terms of Kenny, because you'd imagine everyone internally within the football club is going to be absolutely seething and frustrated at that, because I know that we are. So, with that, we'll see you the other side. Let's hope for 3 points this evening. I think we need a bit of a lay down and try and lose our frustration. Thanks for joining us.